Carson, Leno, Fallon. Now, it's Wine Talks with Paul K.
Hey, welcome to Wine Talks with Paul K. And we are in studio today, beautiful Southern California, about to have a conversation way up in the San Luis Obispo Valley with Andrew Nelson of WarRoom Cellars. Introductions in just a moment. Wine Talks, of course, available on iHeartRadio, Panda, Spotify, wherever you hang out for your podcasting. And this episode is sponsored by Total Wine and More, where you love what you find and find what you love. Shop at Total Wine and More. But not why we're here today. We're here at a conversation with Andrew Nelson, who happens to be a big fan of this show. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having
me. Andrew calls himself co-founder and president of WarRoom Cellars. And I always, every time you would comment on one of my posts or do something, I would think, WarRoom Cellars. And
what did you
tell
think
us a
of
little
that
about
name?
what it is.
What were your thoughts when you heard our name? What did you think of WarRoom Cellars?
I know, maybe because I'm an insider, I know it's a battle out there. I mean, we know that much. So
yeah. When we started, we started,
I heard worse.
We started with we are waging war against big wine, which but I'm about building something, not tearing it down.
Well, let's peel that back a second. Waging war against big wine. I think anybody on the inside of this industry, sort of, and I don't want to use that word inside, but anybody who sees this industry the way we do, would say, yeah, that's probably a noble pursuit. And when I think what you mean is what we see on the shelf, the Joshes and the Apothec Reds and the formula wines, going after getting people to try and taste things that more, and I heard this word today, which I thought was a great word for it, typicity of what it's supposed to be. Is that what you're saying?
That's a nice word.
Yeah, that was from a Bulgarian woman.
That's cool. It's amazing. You're able to look me right in the eyes through the computer. That's amazing. How do you do that?
Because I'm looking at the lens.
You got a trick there. But full disclosure, I respect big wine, and we're trying to take market share, but we changed the slogan. I don't know, year and a half into it, really about being more positive, about building something.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all for wine, wine for all. And I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, like, it's the Three Musketeers type deal. But we try to meet a wine consumer wherever they are in their wine journey. So if they're just getting into wine, we've got something delicious for you. If you want, skin contact orange wine, super geeky. Okay, yeah, we got that too. So we really try to meet customers where they are. Our focus is on acquiring legacy wine brands that have been around for a while.
Yeah, so define legacy, because I thought it was an interesting term you just used when we were talking about camera. What do you mean by that?
I mean, really, ideally, the brand's been around for at least 20 years.
Wow.
I don't think that there's a hard and fast definition, but a legacy brand to me would be around for 20 years. It's known in the wine business. It has a customer base, and so we try to acquire legacy wine brands, and then by either repositioning them or stewarding them, we'll change something usually with the goal of delighting that customer base and kind of continuing on what that customer wants.
Well, that's an interesting thought. Let me just stop for a second for the listeners. Because,
go ahead.
Brand building in the wine business is not unlike salad dressing or toothpaste or anything like that, where you create a product and then you market the product and you get people loyal to the brand. But wine's a little bit different in that, it's not always the same, and you're not necessarily manufacturing it yourself. And I think the wine public now is starting to realize that a lot of wine is, in fact, most wine is not estate bottled. It's bought and sold in bulk or bought and sold as grapes. So if you buy a brand, let's say, go ahead, name one of your brands.
Bonnie Doon is probably our most famous, our most well known.
Yeah,
brand.
I mean that's a huge quote under your definition, legacy brand. I mean, huge.
Yeah, it's 37 vintages. It's almost 40 years old.
Do they have a facility? I don't remember.
So when we acquired Bonnie Doon, there was a kind of a home facility in Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
And then custom crush contracts kind of throughout the Central Coast. Well, one main one here on the Central Coast in King City, and there were almost 200 wines. Really, we brought focus. There's a really iconic founder, Randall Graham.
Yes.
The original Rhone Ranger.
You can only smile when you hear his name, right? I mean,
I learned about Randall in college, and many of Randall's wines or brands were wines that got me into wine. Cardinal Zin and Big House Red and
Cigar Voilon.
Rim. Yeah. So
let me just stop you a second. He used to pour. And I think his mom was with him, right? Does she hang?
Ruthie. Wow, how do you know that? Yeah, that's
she
cool.
hung out with him a lot.
So I never got to meet Ruthie. I would have loved to. But I travel around a lot, and people will come in and talk about, they'll tell Ruthie stories. They'll say that she would come in with a basket of wines, and she wouldn't leave until whoever was there purchased them.
Yeah, she was a character, and they would stand at the table themselves, and she would banter, and she was a little caustic too that way. But this is the part I'm trying to get to is you're buying legacy brands, and brand being basically a label, and the label could be manufactured by themselves in an estate that you bought, or it could be in this case where they they bought the juice and made sure it met their qualifications. But the brand building part's not that easy in any industry, let alone wine. And I'm trying to peel back. Randall had such a personality.
Okay, so I mean, each brand is unique in its repositioning, but with Bonnie Doon, we tried to focus on Randall's message. All roads lead to Rhone. So we went down to 4 wines, all Rhone wines: a red, a white. So 4 core wines, 1 slogan, and then brought that message to the distribution network. So it's this very focused message. And then we changed the packaging just to bring more focus to the brand name. Let me show you. So this was the Van Gris. This was the largest production, the pink wine of the earth.
Yeah, right.
And then very slowly, we just kind of went to more color, and then brought more attention to the name Bonnie Doon Vineyard. It's a well-known name. So we did 2 vintages like that. And then we've gone to this, which is really more Bonnie Doon focused. And then about wine exploration. It really highlights the alien spacecraft, the flying cigar, a delightful story. And it highlights the pink wine of the earth over the French fanciful name. We just found that particularly younger people resonated more with pink wine of the earth than Van Gris des Cigars, although we definitely called it Van Gris. It's all in a ticket to the Dooniverse die cut. That's actually Randall's superimposed face on the label. So each brand has its own soul, its own.
So you sit down, you Bonnie Doon had a brand, had a character, had Ruthie behind the table, and I talk about those days where he was pouring and his mom, and you could speak with Dickie Smothers of the Smothers Brothers. You could speak with Pat Paulson of the thing. You could speak with Pat Fess Parker of Daniel Boone. You could talk to these people because wine separated from celebrity in this state, and Randall was really quite a celebrity in this industry.
Oh, totally. He was on the cover. Do you remember that? 1989, he was on the cover of The Spectator.
So yeah, that's right. He was a mover and a shaker, and I'm kind of developing this brand building thing, and then the fact that WarRoom Cellars, takes that brand and then either contemporarize it. Is it even a word?
I don't know if that is a word, but
contemporizes it, and then takes it back to the market. And let's kind of hit on not Bonnie, but Lapis Luna. This is a brand that I think I bought like 15 years ago, maybe even more.
Yeah.
And
the videos are still on YouTube. They're wonderful videos.
Yeah, are they? Okay, so cool. That I think early days of my broadcast career, but fun. And we were looking for wines in those days as the Wine of the Month Club, that people would like, that were interesting, that were off the grid a little bit, just like you're trying to say, they weren't part of the big wine scene. Tell me about the Lapis Luna those days. I think we talked about this couple that used to call them. I always thought that was fascinating.
Yeah. So Lapis Luna was launched in the late 90s, out of a relationship with Hess. So it's Bruce Weiss and Sal Nuccio, brand. And I worked with Bruce at another wine business, and I found it fascinating that the brand had existed so long. It had been around for almost 20 years, but it didn't have there wasn't somebody that bled the brand. If somebody's not out just every day building the brand, selling the wine brands tend to go away pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it fascinating that Lapis Luna didn't. It lived on. And Bruce said, some years we only made 1,500 cases, and some years we skipped a vintage and it got up to 10,000 cases in the heyday. And so we wanted to, we've developed a process to figure out, what do consumers love about a brand through surveys and discussion. This was the original package. Do you remember this?
I remember it well.
Yeah. Classic package, Moon Eyes.
Yeah.
And what we heard from consumers was that they thought that it meant blue moon. And there was kind of an inspiration.
Yeah, you can sort of make that logic leap, particularly with the round label and the moon there.
And so we really launched essentially a new brand with the same name, Lapis Luna, under our slogan, Reach for the Moon. Kept the Lodi Cabernet. Have you tasted some of the new wines? I
featured that particular wine in the club. I featured the Napa Valley version, I think.
Oh yeah, wow. Well, that was good stuff.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. Here's Lapis Luna. It's been hanging around. It's a legacy brand in that, it's sold enough. But I used to, from my perspective as the buyer, I only seemed to see it when there's a little distress in the inventory. I needed to move a lot.
Sure,
that happened quite a bit from my side of the fence since we bought so much. But
with Lapis Luna, or just in general?
In general, that's the Wine of the Month Club is around for 51 years, and primarily, my
that's amazing. 51 years.
Yeah, 51 years, and it was a lot to do with. Look, wine's agricultural. Let's talk about this. It's agricultural. You're going to pick it. If you pick it, you're going to ferment it. If you ferment it, you're going to bottle it. If you bottle it, you're going to have to sell it, right?
Yeah.
And so,
that last part seems to be the real trick.
That's the tricky part.
You got to sell it.
But Lapis Luna seemed to be hanging around. You're right. It was sort of hanging around. So what was it that you saw that said, "Wow, I got to put this brand back. I can rebrand this. I can recreate the."
Oh, interesting.
Did you come here when that first label came out?
I don't think so.
I had three representatives from your group.
Maybe Drew, one of the founding partners, Drew, may have come and met with you. You may have met my brother, Evan. He runs all the sales. We kind of look alike.
Yes.
Have you met Evan? We talk very similarly. Yeah.
He came.
Okay, but I want to answer your question.
Yeah. So
it's going to sound cliche, but the quality was always there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the wines were just solid, and the people, Sal and Bruce, are solid quality people too. So it kind of came down to the people and the wine. I was kind of down and out. I was looking for a job, which is a whole story in itself, and so was Bruce at the time. Bruce was the founder. Bruce and I worked together, and we were fired together on the same morning. And
so that creates a bond, doesn't it?
Bruce is very brave, very, very brave. And I think he, I have some experience in rebranding and building wine distribution, and Bruce believes in the brand, in Lapis Luna. And so we got together and said, all right, what would we do to relaunch this? I think if I remember right, there were maybe 8 or 10 existing distributors that were active. And that's very valuable. As you know, one of the most difficult things is to just get a distributor to bring you in.
For sure. These days, no question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so here's this brand that's working. You and Bruce tasted. You and Bruce say, "Yeah, we can launch this thing." And you said, "Let's shake hands and be partners." Is that the way it worked?
I mean, it's messier than that in the early days, but yeah, essentially. The I don't know, the goal. I was younger. This was like 5 years ago. So I had like huge visions of grandeur, like we're going to 1 million cases in a short period of time.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right. And
Stella Rosa.
The world has a way of kind of really putting you in your place. But it was fun. And it is fun. It's still super fun. And the repositioning of a brand and something that I think is really magic about it. I gave a talk at YVI where I said, don't start a new wine brand, buy one. I think I said, unless you're the Dows. If you're the Dows, go ahead.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, no, it's hard. Yeah.
But, and feel free to debate, way better than I do, Paul. But I estimate that you have to sell the wine 7 times at least before the consumer can put it in their mouth. And if no one's heard of that brand, it's really easy to be like, I've never heard that. No, I never heard that. No, I never heard that. And so you get shut down, all the layers of the distributor, all the layers of the account, the restaurant, the retailer. But if it's a brand that was around or used to be around or has a name, it's the door's open. And so you're much more able to get the placement. Now, that doesn't mean that people are going to drink it. You got to deliver. You have to deliver a world-class wine in the bottle, and the packaging has to be awesome, and all that has to go along with it. But if it's a name that people have heard of, oh, I remember Lapis Luna. Oh, yeah.
I think that's. I don't think there's a debate to be had about that. And I've never heard anybody say, give that pitch as sort of a business approach. Unilaterally, but it makes a ton of sense.
Feel free to pick it apart, though. I'm wrong on stuff all the time.
Well, no, the reason we were successful with our brands is because I had the built-in client, me. So I could create a label and bottle 1,000 cases, and I get on the streets. And I was, I've got a handful of cease and desist letters in my career for doing that.
Sure.
And why we were talking about the big red monster of yours, because I had created the big red wine beast, not knowing of your brand, and I thought, oh, it looks like this is a cease and desist letter.
Oh, did you get a cease and desist
down the pike?
Just for the record, I always call first. I'm not just a cease and desist. I've been cease and desisted, but I always make the phone call. Hey, there's some trademark issue going on here.
Well, let me tell you a story about for the listeners, because it's fascinating. Because trademark law is the worst law for anybody on both sides of the fence.
I believe it.
Nobody gets rich except for the attorneys. You barely win. You might win the case, but you're not going to win any damages typically. And it's just, it's a medium 6-digit lawsuit just to see a judge.
Oh.
So I got these letters once in a while, and I had to give them once in a while. The term Wine of the Month Club is used all the time. Still is harder to defend now, but I won't name the winery just not to disparage the guy, but he sent me a letter for a brand I had featured, and it wasn't the same name. Part of his name was in my name. The label was completely different. Mine was playful and a cartoon, and it was serious and art nouveau and blah blah blah. And he sent me a cease and desist letter. I'm okay. I go, look, I only bought 375 cases. Why don't you just buy the label for me, $1,200? And I'll go create something else, and you can have the label. You can dispose of it, whatever you want. $1,200, it would have been done all over. I'm not paying you anything, he tells me. I said, okay. Well, I've been down this road before. Apparently, you're new to this industry.
The ego comes in.
Oh my God. He must have spent $10,000 in attorney fees to get exactly where it would have been just to let me.
And what was the brand?
I won't tell you because it would disparage the guy.
Sure,
then the best part was like a couple years later, his rep shows up, and I'm like, dude, I go, didn't anybody tell you when you were coming out here who you're coming to see? He goes, no, why? I told him the story. He goes, oh, sorry, dude. But for the listeners, I got a cease and desist letter recently from the Jackson family.
Mm.
Okay, now Andrew, this is a huge owners of land and or brands across
Sure.
the country, and they objected to the term Vintner's Reserve I had put on one of my brands.
Oh,
Brand name was not anywhere near the same. Nothing looked like Jackson Family Vineyards.
sure.
So I wrote the attorney back. I said, look, I am flattered that the Jackson family feels threatened by by my little brand called Hermosa. So you can please convey that message. And certainly I'll stop using the term, but I'm flattered. It's really cool that you would think that. It'd be like getting a letter from the gallows. Hey,
what did they say?
Oh, it wasn't even they knew better. The Jackson family knew better than to spend $10,000 on a contract with me.
Yeah.
I just said, I'll stop using it when I'm done selling it. And they said, fine. That's the way it should be done, right?
Agreed.
So,
it's kind of a pickle for the brand owner, right? Because oftentimes you're not actually worried that there's some market confusion. But if you let it go, I've been on both sides of this multiple times. If you let it go, then it's there's some like implied consent, and it erodes your ability to say that you have the trademark. So, I mean,
silence is compliance or complicity.
Yes, sure.
But on the flip side, you can pick your fight. So you don't have to send a letter and fight everybody that's in the book.
Totally. I mean, that I make a phone call, and usually they're very disappointed.
Yeah.
But it's well received, Oh, I appreciate that. No, it doesn't always go that way. But
the problem I had with the Wine of the Month Club was it was used so frequently that if I wrote one letter to every single person that used the term,
oh, sure,
I would be bankrupt. And I've seen a lot of people in various industries go out of business because they decided they wanted to fight instead of run their business.
Yeah.
Go out of business because they got buried in legal costs.
Yeah.
So,
well, don't let the WarRoom name fool you. We're all for wine for all. Okay, I have a question for you. The 51 years is pretty inspirational. We're in our 6th year of business.
Congratulations. That's pretty good.
Thank you. Day by day.
Yeah.
What would you say? How do you make it in the wine business for 51 years?
Well, that's a good question, and there's certainly no broad stroke answer, but
sure.
nothing can replace your best effort. And the headwinds are going to be lessons in business always, just like our discussion about trademark infringement. You're going to learn that lesson that hopefully not the hard way, that it's not worth the fight, and that you find a way to settle it quickly and you move on, because really what's more important is your business. And building a brand is not there's no secret to it, right? There's no magic wand. And I have a niece who wants to market salad dressing, and she's gotten to the point where it's ready to be bottled and packaged. And I said, now the hard part, the other part was easy. You creating designs and stuff, no big deal. But now you got to get out in the street and pour the stuff at the restaurants, at the markets, have people taste it.
Yeah.
And I think there's no substitute for that, for brand building. And your idea was a good idea to start with brands that people, at least in the back of the mind, would recognize the name, because at some point in some time in their career in this industry, they saw it or tasted it, or
even if it just sounds familiar. Like,
if it sounds familiar, that's true.
Lapis Luna was quite small, but it had this familiarity to it. Oh yeah, I've heard of Lapis Luna, and that's just. I mean, there's no short cut to that. You just, that's 20 years.
Are you actively looking at brands to acquire right now?
Yeah, every day.
Always, your eyes are always open.
They are. I don't know if my eyes are always open. I got to sleep sometime, but yeah, always looking. I'll just kind of tell you a little bit more. So we're a small company. There's 12 of us, and we don't own a vineyard or a winery. We buy grapes. We buy between, north of 1,500 and south of 2,000 tons, depending on the year. Sometimes, and crush grapes primarily on the Central Coast for Bonnie Doon, and then we do some production contracts where our team is overseeing the winemaking done at another facility, and we're buying it as wine, and then we'll put those blends together. We'll often splurge on grapes for blenders: Petit Verdot, Petit Syrah, Tannat. It's always a gem. There's a lot of activity going on. Sorry, there was a train that went by. I'm in a log cabin here.
I didn't hear it.
We're in Santa Margarita,
Oh, great town.
near Paso Robles,
Yeah.
and we make wine or through grapes or production contracts at 4 or 5 facilities in California now, and a little bit up in Washington. And it's kind of a unique model, you know. I think most people think of a winery or a wine brand. There's the vineyard, and we crush the grapes right here. And so we're much more of a virtual model, but it allows us to pass that value on to our distributors. We really focus on the like $12 to $20 price point. We want to own that part of the shelf, and our distribution network is almost entirely medium size.
Mm-hmm.
They usually focus on one market, maybe a couple markets, and they've got, you know, a couple big brands and then lots of storytellers on the sales team. So it's kind of a niche.
You know, so you crush everything. You don't buy any juice.
No, we do. We buy juice. We crush fruit. We buy juice through production contracts, meaning we'll have kind of a longer term contract with another winery that will make wine specific to our style, and then we'll buy that as a blending component that we'll then blend with our fruit before bottling. And
the final blends come from you guys in your lab, or you make a trip to the winery, the crushing facility, and
it's our team. It's our team. It's Nicole Walsh is our director of winemaking. She was the winemaker for Bonnie Doon Vineyard.
Great.
She worked for Randall. There's some debate whether it's like 22 or 24 vintages now. And she's just an inspiration. She's fantastic.
You know, she one of the things about the Doon wines was always good, and must be to her credit. They always were structure was very solid.
Yeah.
They were never opulent. They were never overdone. They had good acid.
Yep.
But the firmness always intrigued me that they produce wines.
I'll send you. I'd intended to send you wines to taste. I don't know if they made it there in time for this. Have you received wine from me?
I don't know, because
that's okay. That's all right. I'll send you some. Yeah,
there's nobody left here. So down to my wife and one part-time bookkeeper.
Oh, really?
It's pretty spooky, actually.
So the Bonnie Doon wines, they're all so Bonnie Doon is for wine exploration, unique grapes and winemaking methods, and all low alcohol, 10 to 12.5% alcohol.
Really?
The Cigar Volant maybe 13. A red, a white, a pink, an orange, all rooted in the Grenache grape, and then the Pic Pool. So we have 5 wines.
The Pic Pool too. Wow.
Pic Pool. I think we're the largest producer of Pic Pool in California.
Well, if
your listeners haven't tried a Pic Pool, it's one of my favorite grapes. It means lip stinger. It stings the lips, and we pick it very early. 17, 18, 19 bricks.
It's part of the Languedoc, isn't it? Pinet, Pic-Poul de Pinet, which is the French.
Pic-Poul de Pinet, yeah, very good. You know, we say it's a Rhone.
Well, I don't know if it's that far north, but interesting. That's an interesting brand in fact, I was on a radio show in Sonoma about, 2 years ago. It was Dan Berger's great.
Oh, cool. Dan Berger's a big fan.
Yeah, he went to the store to buy some wines, and we on the air we were tasting a Pic Poul, and I think they're fabulous. Let's talk about that a little bit. When you're looking at these brands, are you looking for you obviously have the branding value, which is the name. There's the label. But are you looking for a style, or you're not concerned about the style of this brand that you're buying because you know you're going to modify the style?
No, not always. Sometimes we try not to modify the style at all. So like with Bonnie Doon, the wines are so solid. It was more about bringing focus to the portfolio. So, Randall would debate me, and probably so would Nicole. There weren't 200 wines, but there were going on 200 different SKUs. Think about that. A lot.
Yeah, they were known for that. That's for sure.
And so we went to 4 under a really focused slogan, all roads lead to Rhone. And since then, we've really been about exploration and the alien spacecrafts attempting to land in the vineyard.
Okay.
I've got
All right.
Bonnie behind me.
Yeah, I got one of those.
Cool. For
the listeners, he's showing me a life-size cardboard cutout.
Oh, can they see me or no? They can't see me?
Well, they will, but on the audio side,
sure.
There's this, and it stood in our tasting room for quite a while, this alien, and he's holding a bottle of Bonnie Doon.
It depends on the brand is the short answer. I'd say that in a reposition, there's maybe 3 things that we would look to change. The brand positioning, like what does the brand stand for? The messaging, the slogan, sometimes the price points included in that, like the brand position. The second would be the distribution network.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to focus on a real medium-sized wholesaler. And then the third would be the juice, if the juice needs a tweak, but very often we'll change just one of those or none. Sometimes it's more about just kind of building that messaging, bringing a little bit more focus. So that's kind of in the reposition. But Bonnie Doon, the wine was so solid, particularly on those 4, that we wanted to make sure we didn't change the style.
Yeah, well, you brought the winemaker in, but that's the interesting approach for the people that are listening to this and how we do business in this industry. And so effectively, for the listeners, they're negociants. They don't own any of the vineyards that they make the wines from, which is most wine in America is made. And I think I've come up with about 90% of wine in America is made from somebody else than the bottler. So, if you own a vineyard and you can put the word estate bottled on there, great. But that's what it means in California. But otherwise, wine is bought and sold on a regular basis, both as grapes and both as fermented juice and sometimes as unfermented juice. So it's a great avenue and a traditional avenue. The French did this for hundreds of years.
Right. Yeah, good point.
Most of Bordeaux was negociant. Most of Burgundy was negociant. So I think it's a contemporary way to go. I think it's very interesting. And now you get to focus on the value of the brand by taking it to the streets. And you ask the question about what it takes to do in this business. You got to be out there selling. Who do you have from your company that's going to the distributors?
Yeah.
Saying, hey,
we all sell.
Wave your flag.
Everybody sells. But specifically, Evan, my brother, and Barbara Smith, kind of shout out to Barbara Smith. She's been with Bonnie Doon since the 80s. On the WarRoom team, those are the 2 road warriors. Evan's in Maryland right now for Skyfall, Ruta, and EPA. Those are our brands as well. But then we've partnered with a company called Total Beverage Solution.
Oh yeah.
Are you familiar with TBS?
Well, didn't they just buy Wine Warehouse?
No.
Total Beverage. Okay.
Breakthrough bought Wine Warehouse. Total Beverage Solution is an importer on the East Coast. They have about 30 salespeople, and they import. And they were looking for a California brand to represent, and we were very skeptical. That kind of I haven't had a ton of success with that type of relationship before Total Beverage Solution, but their team is awesome and really had an affinity for the brands. Like they got it, Reach for the Moon and Wine Exploration. So we started.
And what states are they in?
So they're in they have someone in every state. And we started with them in, late 18 or early 19. And essentially we have our distributors purchase from them. It's kind of a unique model.
Well, that's an interesting layer there, yeah.
Yep. And the distributors initially were nervous about that. But we said, hey, we're not changing the production. We're not changing the price. We're not changing the style. You're just going to have someone that's in the market that's going to help you sell more wine, and it's not going to cost you any more money. And wow, I don't think anybody believed us initially. That, you're getting ready to move everything to to Southern or to a larger distributor. And that was not the case. We're really focusing on those wholesalers. And
it's kind of like when somebody starts factoring their receivables and you realize they're probably on the skids, or when somebody starts sending their wine, they add a layer of headache to the industry. They might be doing that. Let me take a break
ultimately, here. Go ahead.
Let me take a break here. Talk about Total Wine and More. Well, you always find what you love and love what you find. With the lowest prices in over 30 years, always find what you love at Total Wine and More. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina, must be 21, drink responsibly. And one of the things I love about this shop is, I go in there and there's one near my house here, and I look for something. Let's say I'm looking for a Napa Cab, and I stumble across the Prosecco line, and there's like $8 Proseccos, which is a great alternative to some of the more expensive sparkling wines, or a rosé at $7. Looking for gifts, so they have great selection of bourbon, which my son-in-law now is a brown liquor guy, one of my son-in-laws, and so we're always in there looking around to see what's new. So go to Total Wine and More. You'll always find what you love and love what you find. But let's go back to your conversation about this distribution thing. I think it's important for the listeners to understand this. Typically, wine is 3-tier. It can be direct to the consumer. Like if you probably you have a Type 12 license, I guess.
We have an O2 now. Yeah, we have a 2
as well.
We have an O2. We're a wine producer.
So you could theoretically ship directly to the consumer based on that. You could ship it to a wholesaler, that would ship it to a retailer.
Yeah.
So you've got all those avenues open to you, but you chose this other one with total beverage, which means you're sort of adding a layer. I guess you're the supplier. But they're not the distributor.
Technically, they're the supplier.
They become the supplier. Yeah.
I think the reason that it works so well is it allows WarRoom to focus on production and brand, and it allows Total Beverage Solution to focus on sales and distribution support.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, those are such different functions.
That's true.
I've tried to build out both before and failed miserably.
Nice you to admit that.
Valuable learning experience. But I think that when one company can focus on what they're good at, and the other company can focus on what they're good at, and then those are working in tandem.
As hard as it is to get traction in this industry, it's I think it's certainly a positive approach to take. And that, the question asked earlier, and I think everybody understands this in our industry, is, getting traction and getting people, boots on the street. And I'll highlight with a story. A friend of mine has a little vineyard in his house. He decided to make some wine. He was, that was the lifestyle he wanted to be. He's got like 100 vines, and then they made the wine. And then they literally tried to walk into a couple of wine shops and sell it. And they did not understand at all what they were going to be up against. And the wife came home, was this very good looking, proper woman. And she's like, I don't think I'm cut out for this, because she's trying to stand in line with the rest of the suppliers and the rest of the distributors, trying to schlep a bottle.
Sure.
So if you're adding 30, you said 30 sales reps
with Total Beverage. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're adding 30 sales reps to the streets besides the distributor sales reps.
Yep. Exactly.
So I think that's exponentially a great idea.
And then we view our role more kind of as a brand champion. I mean, this is going to sound hokey, but our focus is in making sure that they are focused on the brand and understand the story and any point of sales. We make the aliens and any branded collateral to help support them sell.
How was that alien received generally? I mean, I know how I physically received it by UPS, but what were the comments you were getting from suppliers?
Oh man. Okay. So originally, I think we did an original run of like, I don't know, 50, maybe 100.
Really?
we have done thousands of those aliens.
Wow.
Yeah. And interestingly, I think that they're the most popular. We get pictures of them in people's homes with their children,
which wasn't really the purpose of it, but
no.
I'm taking this home.
There was a big music festival in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago, and Bonnie made it onto people who I don't know's Instagram. and like
But that's hilarious.
there was the alien at this festival. So,
well, look. I mean, the part that's hard in our industry, and particularly now with social networking, which has created this new layer to the sales funnel. And for the listeners, the sales funnel is how many people you put into the hopper that you think are going to buy your wine, and then all the excuses why they didn't, and out come the buyers.
yeah.
So they've added this whole layer of awareness. The social networking is very hard to make any money and understand the value of it. But when you have this alien, showing up on Instagram, this is kind of cool. It's
Right.
again,
I'm gonna close the door. I totally agree with you. I gotta give some credit to Chambers and Chambers, because after our acquisition, this is a California distributor.
Yeah, I used to love those guys.
Yeah, they're fantastic. And Paul, one of the executives there, said, "What do you guys think about National UFO Day, which is June 24th?" And we were like, "Well, that's an interesting idea. What do you got in mind?" And he envisioned a national retail focus during National UFO Day, and that was kind of the birth of the alien. And they've since kind of taken on their own momentum.
You don't have to think of everything on your own, by the way. You're welcome to take ideas from other people. Chambers and Chambers, Adam. I think Adam you called on us from there, and he was great. So tell me, let's talk a little bit about the mid-range distributors. So for the listeners, we talked about a supplier, which typically is a winery or an importer, but in this case, it's a layer that WarRoom Cellars brings their wine into. They have sales reps on the street. They go make sales calls on accounts, as well as the distributor that has that thing. So the distributors you're using, saying medium size, those are harder to find right now. COVID has caused a lot of consolidation. It's kind of sad because we're going to lose some brands to these giant, what we call books at Southern and Wine Warehouse now, and those places where a little brand is just going to get lost. So you've chosen sort of a mid-tier size. Maybe you don't get so lost.
Well, I mean, there's always opportunity, and particularly when everybody's going one way, like we really try to go the other.
Mm-hmm.
We love the medium-sized wholesalers. I mean, we're similar in size, right? We're a medium-sized wine business.
And how many states are you in then?
We're in all of them. We're in every state.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's noble.
You know what? We might not be in Delaware. I don't know if we're in Delaware, but we're in, I think we're in Alaska now.
The great wine state of Delaware. Yeah.
We're in West Virginia. We're in every state.
So you have a distributor in every state.
They're down to try new stuff too. Like the medium wholesalers, they're game for, in my opinion, they're game for innovation, for stuff that makes them stand out, and so it makes for this. We can try new stuff. We launched an orange wine, a skin contact wine under Bonnie Doon, or we launched a La Luna Cabernet Franc, stuff that is.
How do you decide those kinds of things? I mean, orange wine, I suppose there's some virtual or theoretical value, awareness to it, but I mean, that's not a huge market. How do you decide?
Well, if it fits with the brand, ideally it needs to fit with like the what the brand stands for. So orange wine in Bonnie Doon was kind of a natural. Bonnie Doon for wine exploration, unique grapes and winemaking methods. But the second is discussion with the distributors. What are they looking for? What are they seeing? We try to never create something. We never want to create something that they don't want, right? Sure. We want to be their best and fastest growing supplier. So we really try to focus on giving them stuff that is easy for them to sell. The wine obviously has to be delicious and tick all those boxes, but a Bonnie Doon Merlot probably would not have made sense, but Bonnie Doon orange wine or chilled red or Pickpool, does.
It's an interesting thought because there's been criticism of the wine industry over the years that, and I don't agree with the criticism, but there's criticism that it doesn't deliver what the consumer's looking for. And the alternative to that conversation is, well, yeah, we're not making White Claw where we decide we want, mango flavored or strawberry flavored because you can just add additives. Theoretically, we are creating wines that are the typicity, love that word, is, they're supposed to take you somewhere. Like if I'm making a Lodi Cabernet for Lapis Luna, I want it to be Lodi Cabernet. If
Yeah.
I'm making an orange wine of the Bonnie Doon, it needs to express the idea of orange wine as well as the Bonnie Doon philosophy. So it's kind of an ironic situation in that we're to deliver what I think everybody in the industry would like to deliver, what the land gives them.
Yep.
But at the same time, consumerism is saying, well, I want, fake sparkling water.
Yeah.
So here you are sort of bridging the gap by saying, going to the suppliers and saying, look, what are people asking for? And then under that brand, creating something that's indicative of the brand and the wine.
I mean, I totally agree. It's an interesting point. If we only made the stuff that we want, like the market, the market is the market will tell you very quickly whether it's wanted or not.
Yes.
And usually the things that we're quite sure the market will want, they don't. And the things that we're not, we're maybe, suddenly they do. And so we really try to listen to the market. I can feel the WarRoom team kind of like, we listen. We try. So it's our intent to really listen to the market. And then we're small, so we can act quickly. The other big thing that we really strive for is consistency.
Mm-hmm.
We've basically, if you find your niche in the market, but then the wine style changes, you can lose that whole customer base. You got to start all over. And if you got to do that every vintage, there's no business that I'm aware of to be had. So oftentimes in the beginning there's innovation. Let's kind of find it, but then let's really be consistent in the style, in the acid.
And that's hard. And I kind of remind people all the time, this is a once a year business.
Totally.
So it's so slow.
Yep.
And you have to be semi out front of it, try to be out in front of it and predict those things and make the wines and hope it sells. And
so
now
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
So this is our second year of the orange wine. We made Bonnie Doon orange wine.
Looks filtered.
The first year, yep. It's in Whole Foods.
Great.
It's a $15.
That's very good.
Wine.
Yeah.
And we started off. So it's for the listeners that don't know, it's not made from oranges. Orange wine is a category. I get that question all the time, though.
I suppose, yeah.
All the time. You ferment the white grapes on the skins, and it'll turn
like
orange.
A red grape. You ferment a white grape like a red wine.
Exactly. And okay, so we made a little over 3,000 cases in the first year, and it's sold out.
That's pretty good size.
Pretty good size.
The first year. Yeah.
We made a little over 12,000 cases in the second year. We're in that right now, and we just had a meeting earlier today about when's it. Oh man, we're going to have to put distributors on notice that we're almost sold out.
Wow! Congratulations!
Thank you. Knock on wood. It doesn't always go like this. And so now it's like, all right, well, how much are we going to make in year 3?
That's tough.
Very difficult.
That's
very
tough.
difficult. And our team is totally divided. Some let's go for it. Let's go huge. Let's make 20, 30, 40,000 cases.
Yeah, I think you're better off growing at a pace that you're not sitting on inventory. Nothing worse than that.
Agreed.
And for the listeners to understand that if you overproduce, eventually it has to get discounted. Could end up in grocery outlet or something, and all of a sudden you've butchered the brand. So I think you're better off being conservative,
right?
But try not to disappoint too many people when you run out of the wine. But it also gives them an incentive to get it early.
Yep.
When it comes, but this is the hard part of what you're doing, but it sounds very successful.
Well, I mean, I gave you a successful story.
Well, I know it's like a
you know,
stockbroker, right?
but that's the fun, right? Like it's this wonderful puzzle, and then you got Mother Nature just at the heart of it. Like, oh, you wanted to make, you thought that the Grenache Blanc would crop this year, huh? So you're then you're
Have you looked at yeah, we're already on 50 minutes. I can't believe it. Have you looked at alternative packaging, Tetra Paks, cans, plastic bottles?
Yep.
And you think the public's ready for those things?
We have not found that our market is ready for those.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we have the answer. We have tried a couple different canned projects, and that's been a challenge. It's a very different supply chain with cans, and I think that the products that we've made have been delicious. We've done sparkling, some of just the best wines that we've made, but difficult. I think it's difficult to communicate to the consumer. Where does it, at least on our end, where does it go? Is it in the cold box? I don't understand the pricing on the cans. We did 250 ml. We did like Red Bull size cans.
Yes, right.
I'm really fascinated with the high end boxes. I don't know if you saw, like Tablas Creek has released a reserve box, like a $95 box that was just incredible, selling out like crazy.
I haven't seen that yet.
So we've been watching some of the box projects.
Crazy.
We haven't tried anything in Tetra Pak, but I'm fascinated with that.
I mean, it would have to be if Tablas Creek is doing it. Tablas Creek, for the listeners, is a Paso arm of Chateau Beaucastel.
One of my favorites.
For them to do that, they're either testing it, which is an expensive test, or they have market data, or customer base that's expecting it. But that's a 3-liter bag in the box for $65. You're sort of bucking the idea of why people buy bag.
I think it was 95. I think it was
95.
Like, yeah.
People are buying bag in the box because they can get it for effectively $3 to $6 a bottle.
Right. And they sold it out, right? They sold it out. And what's great about a bag or a box is you can have a glass and then have a glass a week later and have a glass a week later. And it was really interesting.
Have you seen these plastic bottles? And I had a rep in the other day. And they're 750 ml. They look like those glass bottles that you would see at a fair or some kind of, farmer's market where somebody melted a bottle of, Grey Goose vodka and then smushed it and made a thin sort of cutting board thickness bottle out of it. You ever seen those things?
I have seen that. It's like a melted down bottle and then they put the label back on it.
Right. So this guy's selling plastic wine bottles that look like that, except they're about an inch thick. They're 750 ml, and they're not even a pound when they're filled with wine. They ship incredible, and you can
there's wine in them.
Yeah, they look like a smushed liquor bottle, but they're about an inch thick instead of, course,
it's
the
flat,
quarter inch.
And it has 750 mils in it.
Yes, screw cap plastic.
I have not seen that. And what's the benefit? They stack. It ships better?
Think about it. If your case of regular, claret bottles are 36 pounds, with juice in them, and these are a pound, so you can put 36 of these in a case in amount almost the same space as a regular 750 bottle case. And so if I'm a restaurant, though he sort of poo-pooed that idea, but if I'm a restaurant, I can buy 36 bottles in the same space as 12. I'm pouring
that's interesting.
I'm house pouring it anyway. But so you haven't seen that, and
I feel like I have heard of this, but I haven't seen it yet. I certainly haven't seen it in action.
So when you're polling your wholesalers across the country, and you're saying, hey, what do you guys need? No one's saying more cans or more Tetra Paks or more.
No. They are asking for, I don't know. It depends on the market. I have not. There was a time where people were asking for kegs, and we tried kegs, and it was kind of a tough run for us. I'm game to try. If there's a customer, if a distributor wants to order something, we're usually pretty game to give it a try, just to kind of see if is there a proof of concept? Will this sell? The challenge for us is it's such a different supply chain. We don't own a bottling line. We don't own a facility. So we have to go out and then find different facilities that will do the custom crush, that will provide this as a service.
That's right.
And we're pretty particular on the facilities. We try to only work with the best. And I don't know. It's a challenge to set up a different supply chain for cans with carbonation than it is to ferment the grapes differently, or I think we can innovate much more in the cellar with the existing custom crush facilities than we can go out and find totally unique packaging.
Well, it seems like when you're talking about traction, if you take the Bonnie Doon brand, which is a well-known brand, and decide to make cans, you're not starting from scratch, but you're starting from kind of the beginning of a whole new project that has a whole new market, that has a whole new group of people, that has a whole new concept to sell. And, but you don't need to do that, right? You don't. So it's a commitment on your part to do that kind of packaging and then go market it. And that's got to take a few years to get traction on its own.
Sure. So Bonnie Doon did do cans. Bull Moose, the sparkling pink, red.
Naturally is Bull Moose.
Yep,
Everybody does this.
Yep, there you go. And the cans, they can leak, they can break, they need unique forklifts and warehousing and delivery. I think that some of the logistics made the cans very problematic, as I think Randall would say. So I don't know. Do you think that there's a big packaging trend coming?
I'm totally against it, but I'm an old school guy, and I've tasted thousands of cans. You're against
it? You're against cans? Oh.
Yeah. I've had the privilege of tasting the exact wine bottled and canned simultaneously, and I didn't find a whole lot of difference, though they were different. Yeah, I kind of am. I kind of, and sometimes the cans, I get these wrong. I get these wrong all the time.
No. Well, the cans, to me, the can is much more of a convenience, like a lifestyle convenience. My wife and I, we have 2 little kids, and it's just easy to throw a can into the backpack.
Oh, agreed.
Much easier
that's the whole point of it, right?
Yeah,
it's not certainly to have the experience of a bottle of wine when you're sitting in front of the Parthenon in Italy, It's,
right. Yeah.
So
great.
it's a different environment, but so I'm against it as a wine vessel to be
sure. Okay, what do you think about
the full experience?
What about screw caps?
Screw caps don't bother me as much, except that when I stocked my dad's shelves in the 70s, that's that was Gallo Rhine and Gallo Hardy Burgundy and those kinds of things. So they still carry sort of a negative connotation. I still had people complain to the last day when I sent a screw cap. How could you do that?
Right. I've had screw caps being the perception of a cheap wine.
Yeah, which is old school.
That is old school.
Then you have the synthetic corks and amalgamated corks and the different types of corks.
Yep.
And those are not even noticed. I mean, most consumers that uncork a bottle of wine will not look at it close enough to even know whether it's foam or amalgamated or straight shank. So
sure.
But I had a kid, a friend of mine's son was bottling a CBD drink, and he was asking me the source of corks and bottles because he wanted you to open the CBD bottle
with a cork
wine bottle, give you that experience. Then I asked him, I go, how does it taste? He goes, like crap. I go, see.
I mean, that's the most important thing. If it isn't delicious, it's not going to sell.
That's what it comes down to. And this is, a lot of people have been asking lately, like, why did I sell and what was going on in the industry? Because we had,
I wanted to ask you, who did you sell to?
Gold Medal.
Oh yeah. Cool.
So he's Rick Meridian, the owner of that. He's been accumulating. He's had 2 beer companies. He's got my company, Gold Medal. he's pursuing a couple others, and so he's trying to make a bigger one. The economies of scale got so difficult to manage because you had to have a social networker, you had to have a digital designer,
Sure.
you had to have, I had my own sound engineer here and videographer.
I've watched your Wink rant. I'm a fan of the show.
Yeah, nice.
And I told you earlier, there's a very endearing short clip of you and your dad tasting Lapis Luna Merlot, the
I'm going to find that
vintage. I'll send it to you after this. It's cool. And you guys are kind of bantering back and forth. And
the Petit Verdot. Yeah, my dad was
it's
great.
good. But this was specifically the Merlot.
Yeah, it was the Merlot.
And he was a fan, and you knew he would be a fan. And then you said, "Oh yeah, we've got 400 cases," and he said, $3.99. I want one for the car. And, but
that's very funny.
I was going somewhere with it.
Well, the Wink.
I don't know. You seemed. I don't know. I'm not discouraged, and maybe that's just like I will be later in life.
I wouldn't be. You're talking about an old guy who's running out of energy to be innovative, and I want to continue. I want to be a star, so that's the main thing. And I keep telling people that until somebody says, "Oh, you are a star." But the headwinds in the DTC side of things are for a younger person. I mean, I learned it all. I totally get social networking. I totally get the metrics on Google Analytics. I totally get it all.
Yeah,
but I'm not willing to manage it anymore, and that's the problem.
Well, did you stop having fun?
Yeah, and the fun came out.
Yeah.
It got to the point where I when I came to work, I wanted to come to work, but I was doing it because I felt so bad for my employees that they were here seeing the changes right in front of their eyes as to what we were doing. I mean, one of my employees that left was with me for 25 years. So
wow,
they really needed younger clothes. And I've been talking to a lot of people. I can't help anybody with their subscription model. But certainly the wine trade is, we've
you could probably help with a subscription model.
Well,
we're not focused on subscription. We're building the Dune Club, the distinctive explorative wine network. We launched the Bonnie Dune Club. It's a delightful club.
Well, I can't help you with subscription marketing because of my non-compete. However,
sure,
we get it, and certainly from an experiential standpoint, I want to bring back here on my batch. I own the trademark Les Amis de Vin, which is an organization back in the day when my dad was running his store that was a wine enthusiast group, and it was about disseminating the information of wine.
Cool.
And I don't agree with anybody that says we're going to take the intimidation out of it because it's intimidating. It's a huge subject that you're never going to learn it all, but we certainly can make it more fun.
Totally.
The pursuit of it more inspiring. And people like you with your group and your wines that are cutting edge in the sense of how we're going to get them to the street. And, let's talk about the structure of the wines. It's so important to have that does change, that the consumer palate does change. And you're out there meeting that palate need.
Yeah, we're trying to. Okay, do you mind if I make a couple of predictions so we could watch this in 5 or 10 years?
Sure, because we're already 63 minutes. I got to wrap it up.
Okay, all right. I'll just talk and talk. So
go ahead.
Just tell me whenever we got to go. Okay, so I think that you'll go into a grocery store and there will be a full orange section. It'll be red, white, pink, and orange. I think that you're going to see the lower alcohol trend continue, and I think that the RTD is going to cross over into wine, the ready to drink. So you're going to start to see this kind of low acid or high acid, low alcohol, like vermouth style, or vermouth and soda style. I think you're going to see some RTDs kind of cross over into wine. We're trying to figure out how does, as an industry, we're trying to figure out how do we get Gen Z, who's drinking less, to drink more wine. And
well, here's my prediction of that, and I think the orange wine is here to stay. I have this huge issue with even marketing. This is all theoretical and esoteric. It's not real. So sometimes my philosophies are really strictly philosophical and not deal with the reality of marketing. But in my opinion, wine should, almost everybody, because of the nature of man, will come to agree that a glass of wine is the best beverage for all kinds of of a human soul sanctification. And people, whether you're a millennial, Gen Z, doesn't matter. You can make all the fake drinks you want. You can package cocktails differently than you want. But when it all comes down to it, that you have a glass, a proper, and I call it honest glass of wine, at whatever age you are, you realize there's something about it, and that's why it's 6,000 years old, and that's why none of these other things are stuck around. And your comment on vermouth is a pretty good comment, because those are ancient beverages, and so you know, once in a while I'll make a soda and some kind of aperitif, and people go, "Oh, this is really good." And I say, "Yeah, it's been around for forever."
Yep.
But I have a problem with the idea. Most orange wines are natural, using quote unquote natural.
Sure.
But let's say organic or biodynamic. They always were. Wine was always organic.
Yeah.
Long before the Bordelaise invented copper sulfate, there were no pesticides, there were no herbicides, there were no insecticides. You just made the wine and you tried to represent where it came from. That's my rant about that.
I'm going to send you our orange wine. I would love for you to taste it.
I'd like to taste it. But I'll tell you, we had dinner the night with a couple. They just sold their restaurant. They were restaurateurs forever, one of the famed restaurants in Pasadena. And they have a RTD cocktail thing. They have a gin martini, a special bourbon drink they made up, an old fashioned, and a Manhattan. And it's called Knox and Lander, I think. And they made this octagonal bottles. They have a molded bar cap cork. And I held a blind tasting against my gin martini, which I consider the best, and my Manhattan, which I consider the best. And of course, I won both categories. However, they were pretty good. It was a tough one, but they were good.
That's cool.
I'm impressed with that. But so the question is, why all of a sudden are canned and bottled cocktails RTDs? Why?
I don't know that answer. I just try to listen to the market and then innovate in ways that are small bets. And if something's working, let's try to do that more. Why I don't know. That's such a good question. I like
stirring putting the 3 parts of gin and the half a part of vermouth and stirring it, not shaking it. I mean, all that's the ritual of crafting a cocktail. But anyway, you're on the right track.
I have a production meeting I got to run to.
Yeah, so you're on the right track.
How many cases of orange wine does Paul K say we need to make this year?
Oh.
How many cases? I'm going to tell
So you went from 3 to 10?
3 to 12.5.
3 to 12.5. I would say keep it under 20.
Okay. All right. I'll let him know.
It's such a pleasure having you on the
show. I'm really honored to be on the show, Paul.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really Very nice to see you.
Great to see you
too.
Do it
again.
Let's do it. I'll send you some orange wine. Okay. Let's do it again.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Wine Talks with Paul Kalamkarian. Don't forget to subscribe because there's more great interviews on their way. Folks, have a great time out there in the wine world. Cheers.